right, everyone. Hello, how are we? Glad to see you back again for another video. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be diving into one of the most important but often misunderstood aircraft roles in War Thunder, and that is the strike aircraft. If you've ever wondered what strike aircraft are supposed to do, how they really differ playstyle-wise from fighters and bombers, or even how to use them effectively in battle, then this guide is 100% for you. By the end of this video, you'll understand why strike aircraft can be some of the most powerful tools on the battlefield in your air RB games. Hey, and even air arcade for you arcade players out there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about strike aircraft. Let's go. So first things first, let's talk about what are strike aircrafts. In War Thunder, strike aircrafts are designed for attacking ground targets while still being capable, somewhat, of defending themselves. Think of them as a middle ground between fighters and bombers, kind of like a hybrid where you can do both pretty well, but neither one of them you can do 100%. Strike aircraft usually feature on their loadouts heavy forward-firing weapons, bombs, or rockets for ground attacks, decent armor compared to a fighter but not better than a bomber, and good low-altitude, slow-speed fight performance. Unlike strategic bombers that focus on bases, strike aircraft directly support ground forces and focus on convoys, howitzers, and things of that nature. Their main job is to destroy tanks, armored vehicles, artillery, anti-aircraft guns, and light structures like pillboxes. Now, we're only going to be talking about this in the sense of air battles, not ground, because in ground battles, obviously, most people are going to use strike aircraft anyways, but the playstyle is completely different from air RB and ground RB. So this is strictly going to be how to use them in air RB games, not ground. Let's go. So first, I want to go ahead and give a few key characteristics of strike aircraft. That way you can know what the pros are and what you're going to be getting into when using strike aircraft. First, you normally are going to have more heavy weapons compared to the entire lobby. Strike aircraft often carry large cannons or multiple machine guns to really help in aiding you in ground striking. For example, most planes at the lower BR are famous for their powerful weapons, having 37mm guns, 50mm guns, 45mm guns. Once you get higher, you don't really see that, but things like the IL-2, some of the ME-410s, the DO 335s, the AD-2s, things like that have heavy guns and a lot of them, so that way they can really ground pound to the best of their capabilities. These weapons, again, are usually 20mm, 30mm. You also can have large rocket payloads, and you can have a large amount of bombs as well. These weapons allow strike aircraft to destroy even the heavily armored targets like heavier pillboxes or heavy tanks or medium tanks that drive around in convoys. Now, the second thing is that you usually have better armor and durability than most other fighters, not bombers, but fighters that are in the lobby. Strike aircraft are often more heavily armored compared to the fighters because you have heavier payloads, so you're a bit more of a chunky boy than you are a little tiny one. A famous example is the A-10. Obviously, we all know that. It's built around a massive cannon and designed to survive, hence anti-aircraft fire, because even the howitzers and the AAs on the map, when you're strafing them, they can shoot back at you. It doesn't happen often, but they can hit you, so be very careful. So having extra armor and durability makes it to where you can take a hit or two and keep fighting. In War Thunder, this translates to having engine protection, armor for your pilot, and a reinforced fuselage to help you survive longer. This durability lets strike aircraft survive low altitude attack runs when you're in range of the AI targets that can damage you. Now, the third thing is the performance at low altitude and low speeds. Strike aircraft are optimized for flying low and attacking targets close to the ground. When flying low, that helps you usually avoid enemy radar, not only just their actual radar, but even being spotted on the ground, because a lot of planes usually fly up as high as possible. So it keeps you safe, and usually you're not the first target they go to, because most people don't want to lose all their altitude at the beginning of the match. But be careful, because you may see someone actually dive 10,000 meters just to kill you. But it also helps you stay hidden behind terrain and very accurately line up rocket or bomb strikes on ground targets. Now, being low altitude and low speed makes you very vulnerable to not only anti-aircraft guns, which you don't really have, there's nothing you can do about that except for shoot them before they shoot you, but it also makes you vulnerable to enemy fighters, because being that low, you're not able to dive and gain speed, and you really can't run from anything because you're usually really fat. So just be very careful, because it does make you vulnerable to those things. So positioning is extremely important, and so is situational awareness. You have to know what's around you at all times. So now let's go ahead and take a second and talk about how strike aircraft differ from other roles that you may see in the match, so that way you can know how to effectively play your role. So fighters normally are built for air superiority, dogfighting, and having speed and maneuverability. Things like the Spitfire, you'll be seeing a lot of those when playing the strike aircraft role, or fighters that can outclass you in any dogfight at all. So strike aircraft cannot usually outturn or outrun fighters, so you do not really want to engage them directly, because if you get into a dogfight, you're most likely going to lose. Worst case scenario, if push comes to shove, try to get them in a head-on and spray them with your heavy armament and try to run away if possible. Now, bombers usually focus on destroying bases, staying as high as possible for high altitude bombing, and carrying very large payloads, probably 2 or 3 times worth what you have. Things like the B-17 are designed for strategic bombing rather than being close for air support. Strike aircraft instead operate much closer to the battlefield, so that way they can do better than bombers could in regards to being not only that close to the ground, but being that susceptible to being shot at by the enemy. Now, let's talk about how to use strike aircraft effectively, so that way you can get the best bang for your buck in regards to how much ammo you have and how much time you have to live, given you are strike aircraft, so your timer is ticking a lot quicker than anyone else. First, you need to choose the right targets. You need to prioritize targets that are light tanks, open top vehicles, anti-aircraft guns, or clusters of ground units you can easily strafe or bomb or rocket. Rockets are usually the best against howitzers or convoys that are lightly armored targets, because they usually don't have a lot of explosives, but bombs and cannons of the larger caliber, for example 37, 45, 75, those work great against the heavily armored targets like the medium tanks or the heavy pillboxes. You also need to prioritize making fast attack runs. Strike aircraft should never stay over the battlefield for too long. Luckily, strike aircraft usually get spawned ahead of everyone else. Even if you spawn on the airfield, you do get an air spawn usually, and you spawn way ahead of everyone else. Now, even if the fighters get air spawns, you still spawn a good distance ahead of them to give you a little bit of leeway in regards to having time to strike ground targets. So normally, your attack pattern would look like this. You would fly either in at low altitude. I like to stay a little bit higher so I can dive and keep my speed up in a straight run, but you can approach at low to medium altitude. You line up your targets, preferably in a straight line, not too much turning, because you want to keep your speed at max at all times in case you have to run away. You're going to want to fire all your rockets, all your bombs as soon as possible, and then immediately pull away. It's kind of like how fighters, some of them prioritize boom and zoom. That's exactly what you're going to want to do, except for your method isn't going to be boom and zoom. It's going to be boom and escape. That way you can fly in a straight line and get as many ground targets as possible while maximizing your speed potential and leaving as fast as possible, so the fighters have a chance to get in there and start fighting everyone and you can rearm safely. Now, another thing you need to make sure you prioritize above all else is avoiding enemy fighters. Fighters are the biggest threat to strike aircraft. That's why I mentioned earlier in the video, you need to be aware of everything going on around you, because some people will lose all their altitude for you. Some people will fly 5 minutes just to get to your location if they see you. So you need to make sure you are always looking around for enemy aircraft that are trying to come kill you. If you see enemy fighters approaching, you only have a few options. You either fly towards friendly teammates that are nearby so that way they can help you. You use terrain to hide to try to get away from them, or you just die. You just die. That's really it. That you just simply die, because unless you kill them in a head-on, they will beat you usually 9 out of 10 times. Your goal is survival, not dogfighting. You do not want to get into a dogfight. Usually I will try to head on them, and if I don't kill them or crit them, I will instantly run away, because you're not going to win. You're just going to lose. You're way heavier. You're way slower. You will die every time. So don't do that. Now, some very famous strike aircrafts that are in War Thunder that a lot of people play, or that you will see very commonly played in other lobbies, are things like the IL-2, the JU-87, the A-20 Havoc, or even the A-10 Thunderbolt. Each one of these represents different styles of ground attack, from dive bombing to heavy cannon strike, or even BVR casts. So it really depends on not only your play style, but how people that are in your squad are playing as well, on what role in regards to what type of strike aircraft you should be playing. To summarize summarize everything, strike aircraft are one of the most impactful support roles in War Thunder. When used correctly, they can break enemy defenses, destroy key ground units, and support your team's advance. Now, they may not win a lot of dogfights, but they win battles by controlling the ground war. What I mean by that is if you pay attention to the top where the tickets are, you can see lobbies as soon as strike aircraft do their job and start destroying ground targets can get tickets to half of an enemy's max before the game even starts. So there's times where winning a battle is decided by who destroys more ground targets, by who gets to that last one ticket that you need to destroy a target and win. That can decide a game. So it may be boring to play because some people don't want to strike ground targets, they want to actually dogfight. So this role may not be for you if you don't want to really just kind of rinse and repeat every single lobby, strafe ground targets and whatnot. But if you like kind of farming SL and RP, this is a great role for you, and I think you'd really enjoy it because it's actually one of my favorite roles to do as well. Another big tip I'll put before we end here, if you're playing this, try to have a co-pilot or a partner flying with you either in a fighter or in another strike aircraft. That way you can support each other. Usually I do this with Frogger. You even see throughout the video, we usually play the same class of vehicles so we can be next to each other and defend each other. But there's times where he'll play a fighter, that way he can protect me better, or I'll play a fighter to protect him better. Having someone that's directly in your squad that can keep you safe when you're in a very susceptible role like this is great. But if you can't run with somebody, at least try to be aware of where your teammates are around you. So that way, if you run into somebody and you know you can't kill them, you can run back to Big Bro because you know he can kill them. So just keep that in mind. But overall, strike aircrafts are great. I love them. I hope you love them too. I hope that you can enjoy them, let them grow on you because they are very niche, I would say. But when used correctly, they can turn the tide in the game. So if you enjoyed this guide, consider subscribing for more War Thunder tutorials, some aircraft breakdown, and strategy guides that also go into ground, not naval. But let me know in the comments, what's your favorite strike aircraft in War Thunder and why? Hope you guys had a blessed day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.